Hey guys. So Mickey Mantle once said, if I'd known I was going to live this long, I'd have taken better care of my body. Meaning that when he was younger and playing for the Yankees, he didn't necessarily think about the ramifications of how injuries and playing through injuries might affect him as he grew older. I can tell you, as a former athlete, as someone who really beat up my body in my 20s and even into my 30s, that yoga, it has been my fountain of youth. That I feel now better in my body than I did 9 years ago when I started my practice. So today, I wanted to share with you 3 tips for big guys out there like myself that really need to start a yoga practice and might not know necessarily what to focus on once you start practicing yoga. So here we go. The first tip is to breathe and to do the breath work. The breathing techniques that we use in a yoga practice have a synergistic effect with the nervous system to help lower inflammation in the body and to also help stimulate the relaxation response that we're needing when it comes time for recovery. So do the breath work. It's what makes yoga yoga. Number 2, move slowly and methodically through your practice, okay? Let go of what you think you're supposed to look like and really focus on what it feels like, okay? The pictures that we see in magazines with yoga postures might be things that are completely unattainable to those of us that bring this type of a body to a yoga practice. So don't worry about what it looks like. Focus on the alignment, focus on the cues that the instructor gives, or if you're taking my class, the cues that I'm giving as we practice. But let go of the idea that anything needs to be perfect, okay? Number 3, use props, okay? Use the blocks, use the straps, use blankets. Props are used in a yoga practice to make it more available and accessible to those of us that bring big inflexible bodies to the yoga practice. So use the props. A lot of people might think that I'm doing it wrong if I'm using the props. That the only wrong thing you can do in yoga is to be doing things that aren't right for your body, okay? Lastly, just understand that a yoga practice is about tiny, tiny, tiny changes over long periods of time. So give yourself time to start to move through a yoga practice and to start to get comfortable with it. I would suggest that this is something that you make a commitment to doing on a regular basis for at least a short amount of time and give yourself that time and that space to see how the practice works for you. So if you're a big guy just starting a yoga practice, welcome to Yoga for Men. You found the right place. Namaste. So let's start today's practice just lying flat on our back, guys. Okay, so however you find your way there is fine. But go ahead and come to your backs and take a moment to get comfortable. Okay, go ahead and you can flip the palms face up, your arms are out to the sides. And then what I'd like you to do is just go ahead and close your eyes. And we're going to go through a little breathing exercise to start today's practice, to really focus on coming into the breath. So as you're ready here, just start to tune into your breathing. Notice how you breathe every day without changing anything. And then just start to shift that breath to the nose. Inhaling in through the nose and exhaling out of the nose. And notice the depth of your breath. And then just very slowly start to increase the length of the breath. Getting a little deeper with each inhale. And starting to feel that breath roll all the way up through your chest and your collarbones, kind of like an ocean wave. And while you're paying attention to your breath here, just scan down through your body as well. And if you feel like you're holding on to tension anywhere, like in your face or your jaw, just try to soften and try to relax. And then we're going to work on adding some sound to this breath. So what I'd like you to do is to place the tongue on the roof of your mouth, just inside your front teeth, and slightly constrict the back of the throat. Okay? It's kind of as if you were fogging a mirror and creating a Darth Vader sort of sound, a whispering sound. On both the inhale and the exhale. And you'll notice as you start this, if this is brand new to you, that it's a little bit easier to accomplish this on the exhale. But again, let go of the idea that any of this needs to be perfect. Okay, this is always going to be a work in progress. So if at any point during the practice today you start to feel like you're struggling with this breathing and struggling with this technique, just remember that just nice long inhales and through the nose and nice long exhales out of the nose will always suffice as well. And understanding that it's just about paying attention to the breath more than anything else. It's mindful breathing. But by now the breath should be nice and full. And we want to bring all of our attention and all of our focus to the breath and to the sound that we create. Try to keep your attention there throughout the practice today. Okay, and then during those moments where maybe the mind wanders a little bit, starts to focus on something else, maybe you start to think about what you're going to have to eat later on or when you get done with your yoga practice, just bring that attention back to the breath for the time being, for the remainder of your practice. Let that be your work today more than anything else. Now, we're going to start to move a little bit. So just stay with the deep breathing. Stay with that whispering sound in the back of the throat. And then we're going to move into what we'll call as reverse child's pose here. So just go ahead, and if it's available, we're just gently going to hug the knees into the chest. Okay, you can just place your hands on your knees and pull back. If it's available to reach up and hug a little bit, that's fine too. Maybe make a few small circles on the lower back or rock side to side. And then we're going to take one leg at a time. So just go ahead and release the left leg forward. And we'll interlace the fingers above the right knee here. And then just start to draw that knee into your chest. You can let the right foot just relax and press through the left heel. And stay with that breathing, guys. Deep breaths. Okay, and then we're just going to release the right leg forward. Let's draw the left knee in. Same thing here. And for those of us that may have old injuries going on, you might notice that you're a little bit more flexible one side to the other. You've got some range of motion. It'll all come back to balance through time. Just sit with what you're feeling. Go where you can. And let go of where you can't. Okay, and then we'll hug both knees in here. Now I'm going to rock up. But if there's an easier way or a different way that you need to make your way to tabletop, that's fine. But we're going to come to a tabletop position. Okay? And for those of us that have had knee issues in the past, guys, this is where the props come in handy. Don't be afraid to add a couple of blankets to the practice, especially if you're on a hard floor like I am. Okay? So you can just bring the knees to your blankets. You want the knees and the hips are stacked. The elbows, wrists, and shoulders are stacked. And then just take a moment here. Stabilize. Find a little core engagement so we're nice and strong through the midsection. And then we're going to open up the spine a little bit with some cat-cow movements here. So on an inhale, and we're going to hold this for a few breaths this first time. Let's just gently take your gaze up, take your tailbone up, let your belly dip, and then start to pull the shoulder blades down and in so you're feeling some traction in the spine here. Remember what I said about letting go of what the practice looks like and focusing on what it feels like, okay? Now, on an exhale, let's take it underneath and round the spine a bit. So we're going to press through the shoulder blades, take the gaze underneath, pull the hips underneath, a nice round spine, creating a little space between the vertebrae. And then when we're ready here, guys, let's start to flow with the breath a little bit. So inhale, come up. Shoulder blades down and in. Feel the traction. Exhale, round. And a couple more times or a few more times there. Inhale up. Exhale, round. And then just keep moving with your breath. Every inhale, again, finding length. Every exhale, rounding, creating space. And then this is one of those places in your yoga practice where maybe it just feels good to move around a little bit, okay? Just to add organic movement in. You know, maybe you're tighter one side to the other and your body just feels like it needs to open up. Don't be afraid to go there, to hold, to breathe. The whole purpose of this practice is to make it your practice. And through time, with those old injuries and those old tight spots that we've got in our body, they'll start to open up and you'll actually begin to learn how to heal yourself. So we'll take one more round. Inhale up, exhale round. Okay, then we'll come to neutral. And then from this neutral position, guys, we're just going to step our right foot forward and come into a very low lunge. If the mat's available with your fingertips here, you can hang out right here. If you need blocks to give yourself a little bit of space, use the blocks, okay? Now, from this low lunge, with this back knee grounded, we're gonna start with a twist here. So the left hand can remain on the block or on the floor if that's where you're at. And on an inhale, let's just gently take the right hand high, reach up through the fingertips. Now, if you're needing a little bit more intensity today in this twist, maybe you just curl the toes underneath in that back leg, lift that back knee, and come into that lunge. So we're pressing through that back heel, lifting that back knee, really firing up that back leg. And then on an exhale, we're just going to take the right hand down. We'll ground the left knee if you've got it lifted. And then on an inhale, we're just going to come up, bring both hands to your right thigh and start from this low lunge right here. Moving into crescent moon, guys, we're going to open the hip flexor just a tad. We're going to sink forward. But as you do, rather than just dumping into this right leg, start to pull that left hip forward with some subtle glute engagement here on the left side. So we're squaring the hips, we're pulling forward, lifting out of the waist, so we're nice and long, we're not dumping into the lower back here, and maybe getting all the way up into the psoas muscle. The hands can stay grounded on that right thigh, or you can reach up overhead and get long and open up even further, reaching up toward the ceiling, toward the sky. Staying with that deep breath. Then we'll exhale. We're going to take the hands back down to the blocks and then moving into crescent lunge, a full lunge. Now, you're going to lift this back knee, curl the toes underneath. You can stay right here if that's enough, okay? Keeping the hands grounded. Again, if you need more today, we're going to go all the way up, take the arms overhead. Welcome to crescent lunge, guys. Now, being mindful that we're not shifting that weight forward and dumping into that thigh or even dumping into that knee. Okay, there's a pulling action, this left hip pulling forward as we're pressing through the heel. The hips are square. Maybe the arms are overhead. After a couple of breaths here on an exhale, let's just open up into warrior two. Okay, first time here into a warrior posture. So we're opening up, we're squaring the chest and the shoulders as you approach this lunge in the right leg. Being mindful to keep the knee above or behind the ankle. Again, we're not dumping forward. We're also pressing through the outer edge of this back foot. Maybe that foot's grounded, maybe it's not. If you're a little tight through the groin, you might be a little lifted there. It's just action, energy here. Now, from warrior two, extended side angle. So shift forward. The elbow can come to the knee. And let's just start by taking the left hand straight up toward the sky. For a lot of us, maybe we'll go to a block here, and with a little bit of pressure, that elbow to knee and knee into the elbow, we start to get into the groin a bit, open up the hips, the groin. So this left arm can stay right here. Maybe we start to take it over the top and reach toward the front of the mat. Stay with the breath. Maybe the hands on the hip. Now, as you're ready here, guys, we're going to come back up to Warrior Two, but let's straighten the leg this time and move into extended triangle. Now, anytime I cue straightening the legs, always be mindful here. We're not looking to hyperextend. A little softness might even be more appropriate for most of us if we're just starting a yoga practice, okay? So shortening the stance just a tad. We're going to get into this hamstring on the right side. Shift forward. Let's start right here. Take your right hand to your knee. Take your left hand high. All we're doing from here, guys, is long out of the waist and gently sliding. Maybe you're on the knee, the shin. Maybe you reach the foot in the floor, but keep that alignment over the leg first and foremost. Maybe you're using a block. Maybe, if you're a really tall, really big guy, like some of the ex-football players I've worked with, we're using 2 blocks right here. But feeling that stretch in that right hamstring. Then as you're ready here, we're going to soften that right knee just a bit to protect it. Inhale, come all the way up. Let's bring our hands to our hips. Square our hips with the top of the mat and shorten the stance just a bit. We're going to get into revolved triangle from here. Now notice, I left the block right inside the right foot. So if you were using a block or blocks for extended triangle, you'll want to use it here for revolved triangle as well. Okay, so the hips are square. We're going to inhale the left hand high. Exhale, reach forward and fold forward to your block, blocks, or just the block. And then we'll inhale, we're just going to take your right hand high. Now, guys, maybe this is where we're at. Maybe the hand is on the hip and we're just gently starting to open the shoulder. Remember, it's action. So use your inhale to try to take the spine out of the waist to get long, and your exhale, opening that shoulder twist. Again, let go of what you think it's supposed to look like and just focus on what you feel as you start to open up your body a bit, using that soft breath. Now exhale the right hand down. We're going to step your left foot forward. And then we're just going to soften here, guys. We're going to find what's called full ragdoll. So bend your knees, let your belly rest on your thighs, take your feet out about hips width distance or so, and just hang here. And breathe deeply. Let it go. Then from full ragdoll, let's go ahead and grab the blocks. Let's bring the feet back together. And when you're ready, we're going to step the right foot back. Okay. Go ahead and drop the knee. Or you can keep the knee elevated. Once again, if you needed a little bit more work today, we're going to move straight into the twist. So going to the left side, let's take the left hand high. Again, the knee can be grounded, or the knee can be lifted. So we're working on one line, reaching those fingertips up toward the sky, one line of energy all the way down. Now we'll exhale the left hand down. We're going to drop the right knee. We'll inhale both hands to the left thigh this time. Exhale, let's sink forward. Again, staying tall, spine lifts out of the waist, getting into the hip flexor. Then hands down, curl the back toes underneath, lift the knee. Guys, remember, you can stay right here. If this is enough work for you, there's plenty of work to be found just in engaging, right? Just in lifting the knee, pressing through the heel, or all the way up, arms overhead. Again, crescent lunge. Or hands at your hips. Or hands on the block. But pressing back, firing up, and then on an exhale here, we're going to back to Warrior Two, this time on the left side. So again, chest and shoulders square. We're active through the triceps. The shoulders are soft. This knee has a tendency to bow in warrior two, guys. Bring it back toward that pinky toe so it's above or behind the ankle. And then from warrior two, again, extended side angle. Let's shift forward. Maybe the elbow's just on the knee here, and you've got a little engagement to get into the groin. Maybe the arm's straight up and over. Maybe it's on the hip. Again, wherever you need to be today is fine, but just breathe. Breathe and notice. Then gently coming back up to warrior two, straightening the leg, shortening the stance into extended triangle. Again, guys, keeping the alignment. I can't stress this enough. Over that left thigh. Let's shift forward. Left hand to the knee, right hand high. Ease down. Ease, ease, ease. And if you don't have props available, maybe you're practicing today, you don't have blocks, you don't have straps to be able to use. You know, it's okay to have the hand on the shin. You just want to be mindful that you're not pressing into the shin and causing hyperextension in that knee. So a little softness again. Now, inhale, we'll slowly come back up. Hands to the hips, squaring up, preparing for revolve triangle with the twist. Inhale, the right hand goes high. Exhale, we reach and fold to the block, to the shin, to the foot. Lengthen, get nice and long on an inhale, and then twist. The left hand goes high this time. Long, soft breaths. Okay, exhale the left hand down. Now, we're going to step the right foot forward. And if this is available to you guys, we're going to come down into a squat. Okay, we're going to open up the bottom of your feet. So at some point during this practice, we're going to fire up and we're going to open up everything from your fingers to your toes. So if you can make your way down into a squat, let's come to the squat. And there are a lot of different variations here that we can use as we open up the feet. But generally, we're going to walk forward and bring your knees down to the mat with the toes curled underneath. Now, you want to make sure that you've got equal distribution across both of your feet. And if you feel like maybe you've got a lot more sensation in one side than the other, go ahead and adjust. Okay, don't just come into the posture and sit there because you think you're there and that's what you're supposed to be dealing with. Okay, go ahead and make sure that you're curled under with all 10 toes. Now, if this is too intense for you, you can be right here. Okay, you can bring the hands forward and just kind of start to ease back with it. But we use the breath to expand our ability to deal with this discomfort a bit. Okay, so you can bring your hands to your knees, to your thighs. They can be palms up, palms down. You bring your hands into a prayer position. You can close your eyes. You can keep them open, but wherever you are, nice and tall, and just breathe right here. Now, this is one of those postures that can get really, really intense too. So remember, there's no need to ever experience pain. If it gets to that point where you're super intense, just walk it up. Come out for a breath or two, and when you're ready, sink it back down. And then when you're good here, let's go ahead and come forward. We'll come into that tabletop. Again, guys, if you've got stuff going on with your knees, don't be afraid to use the blankets here in tabletop. And then just pat the top of your feet here a little bit. Now, moving into the tibialis. So we're going to open up the ankles and the tops of the feet a little bit. And this is a huge issue with a lot of us ex-athletes. Now, to come back, to even start to sit back might be a lot of work for all of us, and that's okay. So same thing applies here. You take your feet out wide. You want to make sure that they're pointing straight back and they're not angled out. And then you can just start to ease back. Bring a little bit of pressure into the tops of the feet. Now, if you've got blocks or you've got blankets, you've got something that can elevate the hips a little bit that you can sit back, maybe this is where we go. And same thing here. Find your gaze, find a spot on the wall or a spot on the floor, and just breathe deeply right here. okay? Maybe you're down to one block. Maybe you're down to the floor. Something to be super mindful of in this posture are the knees, okay? Especially if you've had issues in the past, all it takes is just going too far in one moment and we'll tweak the knee. So take it easy as you approach these postures. Again, mindful, slow, methodical. And then from seated hero, we'll come back to that tabletop, press back, 1 foot at a time, press into the ball of the foot, open up the ankle, stay with the breath. And stay with your breathing, guys. Stay with that ujjayi, that whispering sound through the transitions. You want to keep the breath. Keep that rhythmic breath throughout your practice today, okay? Now, getting into the hips a little bit, let's move into a lizard lunge. So we're going to take the right foot forward, and just to demonstrate again, with knee problems, go ahead and use a blanket, bring the right foot forward, get nice and long, and then for most of us, it's going to mean lowering down to blocks, maybe blocks in a blanket, but bringing the forearms down in a way that we can really try to relax the upper body. Okay? So if you find yourself coming to the floor and you're on your hands here, and you don't have props, then that's fine too. Just kind of ease into it. Okay, but opening up the groin, opening up the hip, nice and long through that left leg as well. And then through time, maybe. And if you're already here, guys, maybe you're flexible in the hips and you need a little bit more intensity, you can always curl the back toes underneath and lift. But maybe closing the eyes and really just focusing on the breath and sensation here. And then transitioning to the other side, okay, we're just going to walk it up, and we'll take it back. These blankets on both sides here. And then just give yourself a little bit of movement. Again, breathe through the transitions. And then over to the other side, guys, from your tabletop, make this simple, just step your left leg forward. And then same thing here, kind of just ease in. And pay attention, guys, for those of us with the big, banged up, inflexible bodies, there's so much to learn as we approach these postures, right? Because it takes so long to get set up. You know, in a typical studio vinyasa practice, you know, you might, for those of us that take a while to actually prepare to move into these postures, a lot of times we're asked to come out of it right when we're actually getting into the work to be done. So just take your time moving in and out of the postures. You want to pay attention to, you know, every little movement you make, every sensation that you feel. And I know early on, especially my first few years practicing, I would, as I would start to move into a particular posture and I'd feel something grab or I'd feel some tightness, and it would take me right back to the moment when I had that injury, you know, and understanding, you know, why I was feeling that in my body. But also through time and through recognizing why I was feeling the way that I have, I'm able to kind of let myself off the hook to not be able to move the way that I think that I ought to be. There are a lot of things to work out if we had a lot of injuries as we were growing up and as we were playing sports throughout our careers. And then from the left side, we're going to walk the hands up, come back to tabletop, give yourself a little bit of movement once again. And then, guys, most of us, in terms of the posture half pigeon, if we've got any kind of tightness in the hips or injuries going on, we're going to need to modify that posture to begin with anyway. So let's just all go ahead and find our way to our backs, okay? We're going to do our hips and our hamstrings from our backs, and then we'll finish up here as well. So if you go ahead and just lie down, and again, any way you find your way here is fine, okay? But go ahead and bring your heels in toward your rear end as if we were going to approach a bridge posture here. But what we're gonna do is you're gonna start with the right side first, and we're just gonna take that right ankle up and over the left knee. Now, for some of us, applying just a little bit of pressure to the inside of the right knee or the thigh is gonna be enough to start to get into this right hip. If you need more here, we could maybe thread the needle, taking the hand through to the front of the knee, drawing back here. You could also just work on elevating this left foot, say with a block or blocks. And then applying a little bit of pressure to the thigh, to the knee. But again, right here, nice, long, deep breaths. And then we'll move to the other side. Elevate the right foot, left ankle up and over, deep breaths, draw the toes back on that right foot. We want to be nice and grounded on that right heel. And we'll notice, guys, that typically men have much, much tighter hips, as we know, than women do. So these hip openers can do a lot for us, especially if you got a tight lower back. I found a lot of relief from my lower back pain in being able to open up my hips and increase that mobility a bit. Okay, so we'll go ahead and release. You can bring your feet to the mat, maybe windshield wiper the knees side to side just a little bit. And then we're going to move into the hamstrings, guys. So if you've got a strap, you can use a strap. If you don't have a strap, you can always use a towel for this as well, okay? So we're just going to take the strap over the right foot, extend through the heel, both hands holding the strap, and then the left leg is released forward, okay? So we're pressing through that left heel with the toes drawing back, pressing through the right heel as well, and just feeling that stretch along the backside of that right leg and getting into hamstrings here. Now, for some of us, this is going to be plenty. If you'd like to add a little bit more, maybe wrap the strap or grab the towel in one hand and then start to release that foot to the right as you take your gaze over your left shoulder. Again, only coming down as far as is comfortable for you. Again, you can just press through the heel if you're feeling like you're getting enough in the hamstring. And then today, we're just going to come back to center. We'll release the foot and move to the other side. So, taking the strap over the left foot, pressing through the heel, pressing through the right heel, and then staying with the breath. You can come back as far as you need to. For some of us, that means we're going to be right here, and that's fine. Again, let go of what you think it's supposed to look like or where you think that you're supposed to be. Yoga is not competitive. At least not unless you want to injure yourself in your yoga practice too. As soon as we start to bring that competitive mindset into yoga, it's a recipe for disaster. So let's go ahead and take it out to the left if it's available. Maybe taking the gaze over the right. Okay, and then back to center. We'll release the foot down. Now, guys, bringing the feet into that bridge position one more time. We're going to finish up here with a couple of twists. So take your feet to the outer edges of your mat and then let the knees just fall to the left. And take your arms out to a T. Take your gaze over your right ear, or excuse me, over your right shoulder. If this is enough, just stay here and breathe. Okay, kind of just surrender into this twist a bit. If you need a little bit more, and it's available, just take the left ankle, the left foot on top of the right knee or the thigh, and then start to drag it energetically, like you're pulling that knee down toward the lower left-hand corner of your mat. That helps open up that whole right side, especially if you take your right arm overhead as well. But again, there are plenty of variations and modifications here, so you can just let the knees fall, or you can add more. And your yoga practice is supposed to be about what you need in that moment, which always changes, right? Depending upon what type of activity we've been involved in, what other types of physical movements we've been involved in. So when you're ready here, we'll just go ahead and release that left foot down. We'll come back to center, maybe take it side to side a bit, then feet to the outer edges of your mat. We'll drop them to the other side, drop them to the right. If you need more, we'll take that right ankle on top of the left thigh, gaze over the left shoulder, dragging the knee down to the lower right-hand corner of the mat. Maybe the left arm overhead, nice and long here. And then we'll release that right foot down, come back to center, and then just one last time, let's draw the knees in and add some circles. Notice the difference, okay? Notice the difference in the hips, maybe the hamstrings, okay? And then we're gonna take Shavasana here. We're gonna take a final meditation, guys, and I strongly encourage you, don't skip Shavasana. This is the most important part of your practice. So, Shavasana is corpse posture. It's lying on your back, right where we started the practice. Arms are out to your sides. If you've got tightness in the chest and shoulders, sometimes it helps to kind of just roll the shoulder blades together underneath to release that tension. Then release the head down. The feet can flop open. And if it's comfortable for you right here, go ahead and close your eyes. And we're going to take 3 deep, 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 deep cleansing breaths here. So take an inhale in through the nose. And exhale, let it sigh out of your mouth. Let it go. Again, here we go. Deep, deep inhale in. Exhale, let it fly, guys. Let it go. And then your deepest breath of the day. Here we go. Deep inhale in. And exhale, let it all out. Squeeze out all the energy that you don't want to take with you as you leave your mats today. Let it go. And then let your breath just slowly resume its normal rhythm, guys. And give up all physical control. You want to let your body melt here. The work in your practice today is done. Let go. So let's just slowly scan down through your body, once again, from the top of your head to the tips of your toes. And maybe with every exhale, you feel yourself sinking even deeper. Letting go even further. In Shavasana, we're looking for that perspective of the observer, that we call it. That place where we might be able to see our thoughts without any kind of attachment, without any kind of judgment. It can be like watching a movie of your life. Just roll on by. So the only action required here is to watch from that place deep inside. And to let go. So just continue to release and continue to relax until it takes absolutely no effort to be here today. start to add a little movement. Okay? Maybe wiggle the fingers and the toes. Maybe take the arms overhead for a full body stretch. And then when you're ready, keeping the eyes closed or a soft gaze, we're going to come into a seated position, and guys, any seat works. Any way you make your way there is fine. So you might roll to the side and press yourself up. Again, any seat's fine. You can cross the knees. You can keep your feet right out in front. If it's available to sit on your heels, you can sit on your heels. But any seated position, sitting up tall, with the eyes closed or a very soft gaze, and just take a moment here. Check in. Notice the difference that you feel now compared to when you started your practice. Maybe look to take a little bit of this with you off of your mat and into the rest of your day. Guys, thank you so much for sharing your practice with us today. Namaste.